Friends, today's episode is going to challenge you. It is going to break barriers for Christians who have been silent on this issue of pro-life. It's going to take away all your excuses for not being an advocate for the unborn. And it's not going to be easy to hear. My guest, Stuart Kellogg, and I discuss the topic of abortion and pro-life and where the church is going wrong and where the church can do better. You are going to enjoy this episode. It is going to wreck you like it did me, and it's going to take away your excuses for not being more involved in this epidemic of abortion. My name is Anna Murby. This is Honest Christian Conversations. Let's get to it. If this is your first time listening to the podcast, thank you for spending your time with me today. For all returning listeners, I'm glad you're back. After the episode, please leave a review for the podcast if you haven't already done so. If you have, thanks so much. I appreciate reading your encouraging comments. They help me improve the content for you all. Want a shout out on the next mini-sode? Check out the links in the show notes. Thanks for your support. God bless and enjoy the show. Stuart, thank you so much for coming on the show. I'm very excited to talk to you about this controversial topic. It is so controversial, it's not even funny. People make up different names for what the baby is. They call it fetus. They call it clump of cells. They don't want to call it a baby unless they want to keep the baby. Then all of a sudden it just magically becomes a baby. This subject is so skirted around, even by Christians, unfortunately. And it's time to stop doing that. And as soon as I saw what your ministry was about, I was like, yes, I am going to have him on. Yes, we're going to have a deep, honest conversation about this. So I'm very excited to have that with you today.
Thank you, Anna, for having me. Psalm 139:13.
Mm-hmm.
The
Yep.
Lord has known, as David said, before we were even born, as we were knitted in the womb. And what you just brought up is so critical. Quote, even in the church. That's
Yeah.
what a lot of what I'd love to talk about.
Yeah, absolutely. We can totally go there about the church because this podcast deals with issues within the Christian faith. So it would be terrible of us to completely skirt around that
Yeah, point at
situation.
those people and not say,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
absolutely. I know you're not afraid of that, so I love
Yeah.
it. Thank you.
So what is your ministry, Students in Action, talking about pro-life? What do you do exactly with it?
Yeah. So it's called Students in Action Building Pro-Life Leaders.
Hmm.
And I think it's pretty descriptive.
Yeah. Yep.
One, students, so it's targeted to high school and college
Hmm.
students. But I got to tell you, the material, unfortunately, a lot of adults don't know about.
Yeah.
So it
Yeah.
certainly isn't kiddie. It's pretty heavy in that sense. What it is, and I felt called by God to put this together. My background, I'm a retired TV guy, but I do have a seminary degree studying under Chuck Colson Center for Christian Worldview. I love talking about that. So I've got that background. I have used the foremost experts to put together this project. What it is, just to lay it out, Anna, is it's a 5-module teaching program. It starts with worldview, why worldview matters, Christian worldview, truth and life, outlines that, truth and abortion, talking about truth. And then there's the history of the abortion and pro-life movements and defending the pro-life position. So those are the 5 modules, all about 35 minutes. The program is set to also connect with a local pregnancy center with a hands-on. So I built the curriculum. I did a pilot here. I'm in Fairhope, Alabama. Did it with 8 high school juniors and seniors with some adults watching in to guide me and give me feedback. And they also, my wife was in charge of the hands-on project. So, for example, the history of abortion and pro-life movements, that was a representative from a local pregnancy center came in, and Jason talked about that where we were. Here's the history and in general, but also locally. Talked about the pro-life movement within the county. Then they also did hands-on projects. So they worked with younger students and raised money, younger children to raise money for the pregnancy center. They worked at project. They also did a tour of the pregnancy center. Met a woman who had an abortion when she was a teenager, and she
Mm.
now works in the pro-life movement. So it's a intellectual, if you will. They're learning, but also doing hands-on.
Oh,
And
nice.
the whole idea is, and the website prolifeleaders.net has all the material. Nobody knows who I am, so what might I be saying? So you go to the website prolifeleaders.net, and it's all there. All the curriculums there.
Wow.
There's no charge simply to order the books from the printer in Dallas. You pay for printing and shipping. So I wanted to take away two excuses. One, well, as a church, yeah, we want to do it, but what could we possibly teach? Okay, here's
Mhm.
something very accessible. Two, the
Yep.
cost.
Yep.
And I'm trying to take away barriers so people can delve into this very important decision, which frankly, I don't believe the church, the evangelical church, is engaged enough with, especially with the young.
I would agree. I don't think we discuss the significance of what abortion is or what the pro-life actually means. There's many different people who are like, "Oh, you only care about them until they have the baby, and then that's it." And then there's others who are like, "No, that we care about them through the whole thing. We're we're for their whole life, and nobody knows what anyone believes. Everyone's afraid to say what they believe because they know it's such a hot topic and they don't want to hurt anyone's feelings. They don't wanna make waves and
Well, I call it a political loser. It is right now
Mhm.
in a political loser. By that,
Yeah.
we've got about three-quarters of Americans believe abortion should be legal at some point.
Mhm.
We saw, for example, the Republican Party, which used to be the pro-life party, simply take it out of the last platform. And I think we've got John Stonestreet at the Colson Center says it so well. We've gone from being a pro-choice, pro-life party choices. Right now, we have the two parties are pro-abortion and pro-choice. That's just a reality. And so the church has to be in there speaking truth. And I love it what you brought up, that argument where you only care about the baby. I remember in the 80s reading that argument. There was something to it. And I work at a pregnancy center. I work with men who come in. I'm called a male advocate. And I think there was some truth to that years ago, but I
Mhm.
can tell you now the pregnancy centers, we're working with them. I teach parenting classes. We're helping them learn more, know more. We give physical help, whether it's baby seats or diapers. We connect them to churches. So we're saying no. We're with you for this very tough walk.
Yeah.
It's interesting that when you look at the research, why women have abortion, the number one reason by far, lack of support,
Mhm.
which is pretty broad,
Yeah.
but it's emotional, it's financial. So we're Christians.
Yeah.
We have since the beginning. Do you remember in the Roman Empire? I mean, the new Christians were the ones taking baby. That's how they did abortion then. They didn't want the girl. They threw her on the dump to
Yeah.
die. It was
Yeah.
Christians taking babies off the dumps
Mhm.
and bringing them in. I mean, we've been doing this forever. So let's keep doing it.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. And it doesn't help that the world is trying to make pregnancy centers look bad as well. I've noticed that
It's
they're
it's
they're also trying to peddle the whole they only care about you till you have the baby, burning them down, all these different things they're doing, trying to make them look like they're bad. And like anyone who goes to pray outside of an abortion clinic is an awful person. They're just trying to harass everybody.
and
It's like,
that's
what are you doing while you're inside? What are you doing to the baby? I think you're
and
doing
you
more than harassing.
and to those, and one of them, Senator Warren, is one of the most um, outspoken critic. She has no idea. She has
Mhm.
no idea.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate ignorance. I wish she would come and come look and see how we
Yeah.
counsel. I can tell you what we do, and it would shock people simply. And I meet with the men. Obviously, women meet with the women who come in who are pregnant. There are three options when you are pregnant, and we lay out the facts about the three. If they think coming in that we have some kind of agenda that they're running because most are scared. And we're
Mhm.
there for them to lay out the facts, and do the pregnancy test, do the sonogram, a very powerful tool.
Yeah, yeah, I've heard that.
And here's you just mentioned burning down. After Roe was overturned, there were, and this was during the Biden administration, there were 100 pregnancy centers and churches firebombed. And it was clear from the churches the reason why pro life. 100. Guess how many arrests were made? Would you like to guess?
None.
One. A little better
1.
than
Oh, wow.
one.
Yeah, that's
One. Yet, a fella I know, I did a podcast with him a couple years ago, who was arrested in Nashville for protesting, was sentenced to 12 years in prison. Now, President Trump commuted those, but
Yeah.
it's just so bizarre. Now, here's another twist. So there now is an abortion pill reversal regimen. In fact, down
Mhm.
here we just had in our county the very first baby born after an abortion pill reversal.
Wow.
So the process, and this is why abortions are increasing so much. You can do it at home.
Yeah,
So in a state like Alabama, which essentially it's illegal unless for some
good.
exceptions, you just get a pill and do it yourself. The Biden administration took off all restrictions as far as being with a doctor and that sort of thing. You're supposed
Yeah.
to have a prescription, but you can get mail ordered from India without it. I've seen it. It's a two-pill regimen. After the first pill, which starves the baby, 48 hours later, you take the second that aborts the baby. Well, here's a woman, I'll just use the case here, who, after taking the pill, had a horrible sense of, I made a mistake, and called the hotline, which connected her with our doctor. You flood the body with progesterone to bring it back. That little baby was born 10 weeks ago.
Praise God.
Well, now you have in California, several states, especially California, the attorney general suing to prohibit pregnancy centers from telling patients about the abortion pill reversal. Wait, I
Uh-huh.
thought you were pro-choice.
Yeah.
Right, right.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
this is the mentality. I believe it's demonic in the sense, and I
I
think some
agree.
people don't realize, and I'm but it is. You are going to the point of saying a woman wants to change her mind and have that baby. No, we're going to keep you from telling her about it.
Yeah.
It's a controversial, and again, I think the church has been too quiet. A lot of it is, especially here. I'm in the Bible Belt. Is, hey, Roe got overturned. All right, clap, go. Let's move on. They have
Yeah.
no idea. We're now over the second year. 23 and 24 went over 1 million abortions, and those are reported. Those don't count the at home. So
Mhm.
it continues.
Oh, that doesn't count, even the
No,
at-home one?
it's the
Oh,
one where they can trace.
yeah.
Oh, yeah, it's
Okay.
not the do it your home. And you've got in Wall Street Journal a couple months ago did a story of a Massachusetts group, and they have pill packing parties. There was a
Mm,
nice little story about these women sitting around putting abortion pills together in packets, sending them to red states
wow.
without prescriptions, so women can have abortions.
This is, like, dangerous
Well,
malpractice.
oh,
I
I
I
cared about.
absolutely can hurt the
Mhm.
woman. They don't know what they're doing. There's not even somebody on standby to help
Mm-mm.
them if something goes wrong while they're there by themselves doing this, and they have no clue what they're doing. This absolutely is disgusting. That doesn't show that you care about the woman. They
I
keep
thought it was
talking about
women's
how
health
they
care.
care. Yeah, it's women's health care. They care about them. They want them to have the choice. It's like, okay, well, then be there for them. If you're going to have them do that, then you better walk them through the process. Be there on standby. Be there. Have somebody there with them while they take the pill because you don't know what's going to happen. Frankly, I'd rather they not take the pill, but if they're going to, somebody should be there with them to help them. Should something go wrong, should they have a moment where they're like, I don't think I can do this.
Well, and I'll tell you, a study came out in the spring 2025. It's called the Ethics and Public Policy Center. What they did is exactly what you're talking about, Anna. They traced. Now, the FDA officially on the bottle says 0.5% is the chance of serious adverse effects. Okay, that's what
Mhm.
they say. Well, what this group did is they took over 800,000 insurance forms. Okay, so they're just following that between 2017 and 2023 of women who had taken the pill
Mhm.
on the insurance forms. What they found was 11%, not half a percent, 11% had serious adverse effects. So
Hmm.
20 times the danger that our government says the pills have. Why do you think that is? I'm not a conspiracy nut, but
Yeah.
if your position is this is all I care about. So this is just and now by the way, the FDA does not report adverse effects unless the woman dies.
Hmm.
So just from data, it's 22 times more serious, which goes to your point. Why isn't there anyone there? Well, there used to be. You used to have to have a doctor. It started with Obama, but then the Biden administration stripped all those except the prescription requirements. But as I said,
Yeah.
it's easy to get around that. Now you have groups such as that group in Massachusetts that get the prescription and put them in boxes and send them to Alabama, Mississippi, and other red states, and so the women can have the abortion.
They
And
just want their money. They don't
yeah,
care about
mhm,
us as
mm,
human beings. They just want what they want. They wanna keep people quiet who are trying to actually do something to help.
yeah,
Regardless if someone wants to try to help a woman not have an
uh,
abortion, even if they started the process to tell them, "No, you can't tell them." Where in any other medical area are they saying that?
yeah,
That's what you gotta wonder at that point. I'm already there, like, you mentioned that you're not a conspiracy nut. I could totally be a conspiracy nut all day long on several other things that I've learned since 2020, but I don't trust the healthcare system at all. This is one area where I absolutely don't trust them because they're calling this healthcare for women, but they're not caring for the woman. They're
mhm.
hiding statistics. They're hiding
Well,
statistics. They
well,
don't want to
well,
tell people just how dangerous this could possibly be to you, how life-threatening for the rest of your life it's going to be, because who's going to wanna do it? There will be people who will still do it, but not as many as there are now who are blindly believing everything they're being taught in school and being told on the web and all these other areas where they're telling them it's just a clump of cells, it doesn't become a baby till it comes out of you, which makes absolutely no
mhm.
sense and
Well,
is
and the one of those memes is that the abortion pill is safer than Tylenol. Where
ugh,
who came up with that?
I
But
know.
there it goes. That's why we talk about truth. Now the irony is the attorney general and the abortion pill reversal, the FDA has not approved it yet. So that
What?
that is true. And their argument,
Oh.
but if you're
Ugh.
going to deal with the FDA and but what about this other issue? So it yeah, it's a bit complicated, but can there be at least some common ground somewhere? And so that's part, and I think as Christians, that's what we're called to do, to have the common ground and to be
Yeah,
there and to help. I think that as again, lack of support. What are we doing as the Christian church to help this pregnant teenage mother?
yeah,
Who is a lot so I there's a lot more to do, but that's why this program that I put together, the Building Pro-Life Leaders, is to help the younger understand the process and understand
mhm,
the idea of just looking through at life through that biblical worldview of how it looks at life, to be able to understand the issue of abortion, to understand how it works, and then to be able to defend it. The
yeah,
whole 5th chapter is how to the 5th module is how to defend it, how to ask questions, how to probe, because a lot of people, and it's interesting, I spoke at the Mississippi Life Summit in the summer, and I got to speak about the project. One of the breakout groups, there was a group called Seculars for Pro-Life, and the woman
mm.
leading it is an atheist, but an adamant pro-life. It was a fascinating
I
discussion.
know.
And but it was interesting in her point in talking to us, and we said we're not going to talk about faith. We want to hear your perspective here. And her perspective was, yeah, you've got a lot of people who say they're pro-choice, but there's a big swath that are they really? If you really get to engage with them, they're really not comfortable with it. So can you
Mhm,
talk about it? Can they understand it better because they're just going along with the flow? So it was
yeah,
an interesting perspective like that. A vast majority of the pro-lifers are Christian, and that's a
mhm,
fact. But you do
yeah,
have others out there. So how can we prepare the kids? I tell this story. You know, the kids are in the bubble in church, and they're all pro-life, and then they go to the university and they sit in one philosophy class, and their head gets blown off
yeah, yeah,
because they're
yeah,
being challenged about
exactly.
their faith and everything else. So
Yep.
how can they be prepared? That's part of what this will do to help prepare for how to engage, to ask questions, to stand for the faith.
Yeah, and I love that you're doing it from the perspective of high school and college, because,
Yeah.
like you just mentioned, they're coming some of them are coming from Christian backgrounds, and then all of a sudden they're 1 semester at college, and then they no longer believe in God, or they just enter high school and they don't believe in God. They're for abortion, and you're like, "What in the world just
Mhm.
happened here? I
Mhm.
don't understand this at all." Those are the formative years that absolutely need this information. They need to have this information because they're going to definitely have the other quote unquote information. That's all they're going to get. Maybe they'll have somebody who might scratch the surface of the other side, but they're not going to do it in a positive way. They're going to make it look like that's the worst position. You don't want to do that. I like that you're giving that other option and just giving it away basically is like, here, take it. take it.
Use it.
You need this, take it. Yeah, I love that very much. It's definitely it's something that's needed. Our kids are being targeted for so many different things,
Well,
but
yes.
definitely for this. They're not being told, "Hey, why don't you just not have sex before you get married because this is what happens." They're being taught how to have safe sex so that they don't have a baby. It's like, no, let's not teach them that. They don't need that information. Let's teach them this instead, or teach them what it actually is to be a parent. Get real life
Uh,
parents in there for a school day, for a health ed class, and just have them explain a day in a life of a mom, a day in a life of a dad. And how many of those kids are gonna be like, "Ooh, I'm not ready for that."
yeah.
It's like that alone would
And
do it for me.
and then the answer for the other is, yeah, so if it happens, just get rid of it. Let's make it all
Yeah,
better.
exactly. They just
Which is
they
our
just make
culture
it
today.
seem like it's just this one-minute thing. It'll take maybe an hour, you
Yeah.
might feel a little uncomfortable afterwards, but after that, it's out of sight, out of mind, it's gone. But
And it's
that's not true.
it's interesting. As I mentioned, I work in a local pregnancy center with the men, and but I've met women who are part of the pregnancy center and had abortions when they were teens.
Mm,
Just talking with them now, and most are in 40s and 50s, the psychological, this idea that there's no psychological impact.
mhm,
Hardly. You'll say people, well, I don't feel guilty. You'll even see some of these who celebrate their abortions. I mean,
mhm. Yeah, I've seen
boy,
those before, and I don't
but
understand it.
what everyone has told me, and these are women, yes, they have studied it, but they also lived it. We're talking decades. We're, that's when it comes up
Mhm.
from underneath if it's not dealt with.
Yeah.
Here's the thing: our pastor, Dr. Eric Hankins at the church, on this is, and I've never seen this before, and he speaks a lot about pro life. He has never talked about pro life and not said there are women here in this congregation who have had an abortion. There are men who have paid for abortions for women. Remember, the blood of Christ covers all sin.
Hmm.
And that is just so important. We've got to remember that it can
Yeah.
be dealt with, but it's not simple. You just said simple.
Yeah.
Yes, the procedure's simple, but what will happen in the
Mhm.
future? It's down the road in most cases is severe and can impact in so many ways. It's got to be dealt with. And that's
Yeah.
also what the church can be. Should be.
Yeah. I I have never had one, but I've always been against it. From the very moment I heard of abortion, I knew what it was. I don't remember if anyone ever really told me what it was. I just knew that this is you don't do that. If you got pregnant, suck it up. You gotta do something about it. You just can't kill them. That's just how I was as a teenager. As I've grown, I understand. I have 5 kids of my own, and I know it's difficult to be a mom. It would be extremely difficult to be a single mom. I was for a little bit of time, so I get it. I've been there, and I have a little more compassion now. But this subject gets me so heated where I'm like, okay, I gotta take my honesty, but I have to be loving like Jesus
Yes.
would with it. So I don't talk about it too much, but when I do, clearly the passion comes out. I have realized that a lot of these women are just afraid. They don't know what to do. Like you said, they don't have support. Maybe they have their boyfriend, significant other telling them, you have to do this, but they're trying to figure out, do they really want to do this? Maybe they have their parents, they have the judgment of family. And that can be a very heavy burden, and then the women don't know what to do, and this is all they're being thrown as an option. We as the church should not be so quick to judge them, thinking that they're all like those who get abortion cakes and celebrate on TikTok or whatever. That's probably like a drop in the bucket of
Oh,
the people doing it.
agree.
Most of them regret it even if they'll say they won't. I feel like that's probably just a coping mechanism to them, is just telling themselves, hoping that one day they'll get it, fake it till you make it. It's heartbreaking. I've gotten to this point where I feel sad for the woman as well. Obviously, I feel terrible for the baby because of what's happening to them, but I do feel something for the mom as well. And that's where us believers, we need to be too. Like what your pastor said, that is a beautiful statement. And every church should be saying that, that God can cover that. We've all I mean, if you go off of what Jesus said, we've all committed murder because we've all hated our brother or sister at one point. This sin may seem difficult and horrible to our humanness, but sin is sin to God, and He still will cover it. He knew they were going to do it when He was on the cross. He didn't get off and say, "Okay, well, I can't. That's just too much."
Yeah.
He knew it was coming.
And that's the whole issue of it being part of the Christian witness
Mhm,
is what is like. I think a government, and I've had this discussion with others who are not in the Christian sphere, but they want to care for folks. I said a government, a culture has to start with caring for the young and the least and the most vulnerable.
mhm,
How can there be any more so? And if you don't, and we're seeing in our culture, if you think you can take a minor and without their parents' permission, you know, change their genitalia because they feel that way and not tell the
mhm.
I mean, that kind of mindset
Yeah,
goes in. You are taking advantage of the most vulnerable. And
mm,
is there any more vulnerable than an unborn baby? So,
yeah,
but
I agree.
how engaged is it? And I think part of it is too a lot. Yeah, in January when it's pro life month, they'll stand up and do something. But what are they doing
The rest of the year.
consistently? And
Yeah.
that's part of what trying to help. And what I found, by the way, Hannah, this probably won't surprise you, as have rolled this out, is the least effective is going from the top. I mean,
Mhm,
pastors will hear me out, and I've spoken to groups of them, and that's terrific. But what I found the most effective is coming the other direction, finding I call them pro life champions in the church. I'm thinking one example right now, and these two women, they just are, and they went to the pastor, and he was, oh, yeah, whatever, not really. And so they just took the material, made it their Bible study, and then the women are going to do it together with their children. I mean, so
mhm.
it's got to be ground up in a lot of cases because
Yeah,
too many are think, well, does it fit in the curriculum and that sort of thing.
yeah,
I think they should make it fit. I mean, why can't a youth group take 5 weeks? Let's make
yeah.
this a project. So anyway,
I
I'm knocking
think
on all the doors.
I have a hot take on this as to one
Okay.
reason why I think churches might be apprehensive about wanting to discuss this because it's such a hot topic. And a lot of churches, not all, but a lot of churches care about the funds coming into their church. And they're worried that if they start getting more involved with pro life, that perhaps they're going to lose people.
Mm,
And in turn, that means you're going to
yeah.
lose money. And
But you know what? You might get
yeah,
people
yeah, you might.
if
You'll
we're going to
get the
be
right
totally
people. Yeah.
businessless. How do you not
And
say for? I think you're right. I think that's
yeah.
right.
And I do think that this is something that a lot of youth groups should take a time, set aside a time, and discuss this because, again, they're the ones being harmed the most by this because they're only being told one side. This is how you have safe sex. Not let's not have sex until you're married because this is how God made it and this is what happens when you don't. They don't bring in people who are going to tell you what happens when you have sex and you have a child out of wedlock and how that goes and all this stuff. Wait until you're married. It's better that way. You have less scars, you have less issues, but nobody's telling them that. Nobody's telling them the importance of that, why God made it that way. They're only hearing what the world is telling them, and the church is staying silent on it because they don't want to make waves. They don't want to get in trouble. They don't want to lose their forget what their tax exemption is called, C
501c3, but they won't lose it
501c3.
for that.
Yeah, and they probably think they will. Maybe they've been told they will, which is a
Good
lie,
excuse.
but
Good
still,
excuse.
yeah. It's like they don't want to take the necessary steps, but we as believers are called to walk in God in Jesus's footsteps and he suffered. Why do we think we're not going to suffer, that we're not going to be persecuted for these things? We don't get persecuted in America. There's not really anything there. There's a few things that happen, but it's not persecution. If you start talking about this subject in an honest and real way and start showing love to people and it starts changing the dynamics and abortion becomes less and less because of it, I believe there would be a lot of persecution starting to happen. I think that's why people are afraid to do it because we're cushy and comfortable
Mm,
in our Christianity, and we don't wanna make waves, we don't wanna hurt people, we don't wanna tell them what to do, it's their body, their choice. It's not their body. They're messing with someone else's
Mm.
body. That one irritates me.
Yeah.
I won't go there, but yeah, that
Well,
one
that's
I can't.
part of what this process is. I use here are the slogans you're going to hear, and I
Mhm.
even go into logic and saying, and those are assertions. My body, my choice. It's not an
Mhm.
argument
Yeah.
with truth. So we talk about the difference, and Scott Klusendorf, who's one of the foremost experts on this issue. I quote him in the project, and he talks about a syllogism, which is an argument, and the most powerful is it is morally wrong to kill an innocent human being. Abortion kills an innocent human being.
Mhm.
Therefore, abortion is wrong.
Yeah.
That's called the syllogism. That's one of the things we teach. And just that thinking through versus my body, my choice. That's not an argument. That's an assertion.
Mhm. Yeah.
And so let's talk. Let's unpack mine. You don't agree with my syllogism, my argument. What don't you agree with?
Mhm.
Is it a life? Well, let's talk about that. Let's talk about once you have a zygote, once you have the sperm and the egg together, one cell. The DNA is the same as when that person is 90 years old.
Mhm.
The DNA does not change. Does that make it a human? So you can talk the science in, you can talk the morality. So how do you unpack and have that conversation? Of course, a lot of people don't want to have it. They
Yeah.
won't even listen.
Yeah.
But again, and this is one of the secular pro life group, as she talked about. You've got a large chunk who did. Yes, they'll say they're pro-choice, but they're really uncomfortable. And they really haven't learned. So
Yeah.
that's kind of the area we're going to work on first is to help them understand and come along and
Mhm.
understand what it's really about. So that's what the program's about. And again, the idea is taking excuses away on why people can't talk about it. Here
Yeah.
it's
You
pretty simple.
strip those away and then what do you have?
See what happens.
You have
But then,
to you have to think for yourself at that point.
yeah, it's a
That's
chance.
what a lot of people don't wanna do, like you said, they don't wanna have the argument, they don't wanna have the conversation, they don't wanna think for themselves, but at some point, you're gonna have to do that once you strip away all the baloney and all the lies and the excuses, that person's gonna have to make a choice, and they're gonna have to reconcile with what they really believe. I like that so much. Does the curriculum have images or pictures?
No.
Okay.
Right. The curriculum, and it's laid out as I mentioned the 5 chapters, if you
Mhm.
will, modules, and they're about 30-35 minutes. What the website has is one, you can see the PDFs of exactly what it is. Also on the website, and when people order the books, the PowerPoint and videos come from the website for free, downloaded. That's simply the easier. We're thinking doing thumb drive. Well, the easiest, you just go there. So as long as you have Dropbox, you have their
Mhm.
free version. You go and you get them and you look at them. So it's built to. So those are images in the sense that there are visuals, there are different examples. There's an animation
Mhm.
of the whole process of
Okay.
fertilization, which is pretty powerful. There was a hearing right after Roe got overturned in the U.S. Senate. There's a little clip I put in there of a woman who's very much pro-abortion who wouldn't acknowledge that a child a day before birth has any agency. I mean,
Mm.
so it's kind of saying, okay, here's what we're up against.
Mhm.
In videos like the protests, okay,
Yeah.
here's what they're saying, and it's how do you answer them? So there are videos and that sort of thing,
Okay.
and the PowerPoint. So those are visuals, but the actual material is simply the material that is taught. There's fill in the blank for the students as you're doing the teaching. And
Mhm.
then there's a bibliography and there are ideas on how to do your hands-on projects.
Mhm.
An example of what my wife did here for ours, but you can do whatever you want.
Yeah.
Just the important thing, and you wouldn't have to, you can still teach it. And I think there's value. I think the most value is to connect with a local pregnancy center to help them, but also to help the students learn more.
Yeah. Our church is actually involved with a
Mm,
pregnancy center
yeah.
around our
Well, there,
area.
hey, I,
Yeah, I was asking about the images only because I know sometimes people can be sensitive to seeing
yes.
images of the process itself. I watched the movie Unplanned, and the beginning scene wrecked me. I
Yeah.
was in the fetal position, sobbing uncontrollably, my ears covered because I couldn't hear what they were doing. And I know it was cinematic, so they probably overemphasized it a little bit. But in my brain, That's what I feel like it would be for the child. That's what it would be for the whole process. And it wrecked me. And just hearing it, I can't look at the images. And it's not that I don't want to, because I know that that's a human life that God cares about. It's just I am already as pro life as it's ever going to get. I don't need to see that to get it. Like, I get it. But I just viscerally, I can't see it. It breaks my heart. Mm.
There are two views on this. I mentioned Scott Klusendorf is an expert. He is very much in favor of that. I
Mhm.
am not. Pregnancy center, I'm with not just the squeamishness, and our executive director put it so well as we were going through our training. And her point is, you've got women who have had abortions in the past to see that. Again,
Mhm.
this trauma,
Yeah.
and we need to deal with it. And so again, arguments on both sides. I don't believe that. And so no, there's no
Okay.
graphic images. I don't believe that's the way to go. I understand and I respect the other position. We're both trying to get to the same place,
Yeah.
but I think it's most effective not to. And they're certainly not in this. It's information.
Okay. I feel like if someone comes from the position of they have to show someone, I feel like that just gives the other side more ammo to say, look, they only care about the baby until it's born
Well,
and they
mm,
just want to scare people into it. And
yeah.
nobody should ever want to do that because that's not the right motive, is to
uh,
scare people into anything. You don't want to scare them into coming to Christ because then it's not a real confession
mm,
of Christ and they're not going to live it
mm,
out that long.
good point.
Same with the abortion thing. You can't do that to people. You can't scare them into saying, "Well, look at what you're doing. You're a murderer." That's another thing. Christians, I know you do this and I know it comes from a place of hurt and love. I get it, but we can't call them murderers because again, we have also committed murder. Jesus has said that if you hate your brother or sister, you are committing murder as well. It's just the same. So I don't like when people want to call them that. You can call it murder, but you don't have to call them a murderer. More than half of them are doing it out of fear, anxiety. They're not doing it because they find it fun. This is
Mm.
their sixth one, and it's just woohoo.
No,
There's
in
some
fact,
people
I
out
mentioned that
there.
lack of support. I mean,
Yeah,
that
exactly. It's like they
they're coming
have
from a
no
vulnerable place.
options. They're ignorant on the whole thing. They're just going off of what they heard. They're young and impressionable. It's not fair to say that to them and to put them in that place, especially once they if they do go through it, they have to live with what they did afterwards, and you calling them that is definitely not gonna help. It's only gonna make it worse, and it's not helpful. We, as the church, should be the hands and feet of Jesus. There's no way that he would call them that with such hate and visceral and all that. So Stuart, how can people in the church do better with this topic? Not just with using your materials, which
Right. No,
clearly sounds like a very good, easy, open opportunity, but how can the pastors from the pulpit, how can just everyday people who are passionate about this, how can they as a church body be better?
I think talking not just about this, but talking about life. We are a culture of life. And what we're seeing, and it's not just abortion, look what's happening in Canada. Do you realize that 5% of the deaths in Canada now are by state sponsored and allowed suicide?
Yep, I've heard that. It's
5%.
terrible.
And in, I believe it's Ontario, it's 9%, and now they're about to expand it to children. So that's a culture of death.
Mhm.
Euthanasia is a culture. So this people made fun of the slippery slope once abortion is normalized.
Yeah.
Well, no, this is the slippery slope.
Yep.
And we have the same argument on sexual. We're not talking about
Yeah.
sexuality, but with the
Yeah,
same
no,
argument
exactly. That's what I was thinking.
on once you make marriage whatever you want it to make, what
Mhm.
has that led to? The transgenderism that has led to children, again, minors without parents' consent being mutilated. So
Yep.
there is a slippery slope. So
Yep.
I believe in this topic, the church needs to talk more about life, and
Mhm.
life includes life in the womb, but it also includes life of those on the street. It
Yep.
includes life of kids using so much screen time that their mental health is being hit. We don't talk enough about life. One of my arguments is in a lot of evangelical churches, we want to bring people to Christ, absolutely, to trust in Christ. And then we talk about going to heaven. and we ignore this in between part, which is life and its kingdom here, the kingdom here. That's a key part of life. And what do we do as a church to enhance life of those within the body and those outside the body, of which this is part of it? I don't think the church talks about life enough and
Yeah.
all it means. So you ask me, I'm not a pastor, uh, but that's what's missing, which from that will flow more recognition of what life is and what we can do to enhance it. And again, talking about that woman who doesn't want to have an abortion but feels she has no choice because she has lack of support. That's life. What can we do to
Hmm.
make that life? I think we need to do more of that, and we need to do a lot less politics. I think if people did more praying about life, reading the Bible about life than watching cable TV news, it would be a lot better church.
Yeah,
And
I
that's
I
all I'll say
agree.
on that. But that's, I think, critical.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. We need to care about people. That's what we're called to do.
Jesus
That's
kind of did that, didn't he?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. He cared. He didn't care what they did, he cared about them.
Who they are.
That's why the Pharisees always got mad at him. "You're eating with sinners and tax collectors and prostitutes." It's like, "Well, yeah,
I'm meeting them
they
where they
need
are.
me." Yeah,
I'm meeting them where they are. Yeah,
yeah,
and
they
I'm not
needed
saying
him
this is
and
good. Yeah.
yeah,
Mhm.
and he's
Mhm.
not condoning anything. He is meeting them where they are, and he's loving them in a way where they realize their need for a savior. And that's what we as Christians are supposed to be doing. That's where I know I've lacked, especially in this subject matter. It's just I don't understand why people would do this, but I have to realize it's not about me and what I think. They don't have my brain. They don't have my heart. They don't have the knowledge that I have. They aren't me. So who am I to judge them according to my standards, especially with such a heavy topic that I know they're suffering through? We all have to take a step back from our high horses and realize where we once were in life and realize we are no different. At one point, we were ignorant too about things we did, and someone out there probably wanted to come at us and say, "Are you dumb? Why did you do this? Don't you know this?" But they didn't. They came at it with a place of love and it transformed you. And that's how we're going to beat this
Mm.
abortion epidemic is by love and truth and being the hands and feet of God. We can't be afraid to make waves in this department. This is very important. There are futures of children being squelched because of this, needlessly, because women are told that they can't have a career and they can't have children. They're being told that children are a burden, they're not a blessing, that we're here today, we're gone tomorrow, live it up. These are lies from Satan, and we, the church, have to combat that somehow. And we can't do it with hate. We can't do it with the same tactics that they're doing it. We have to be set apart. Once we do that and we are set apart, they're going to notice the difference and they're going to know what truth is.
There it is. And to be prepared, and that's what this is, to help prepare, so that you're on firmer ground. So,
Yeah.
rather than just, "I know it's wrong, the Bible says it's wrong." Well, if you're talking to somebody who doesn't believe in the Bible, they'll say, "I don't believe in the Bible. What else do you
Yeah.
got?" Well,
Yeah.
this program is, this is what else we got. We're talking about
Hmm.
science, we're talking about, so all sorts of things that will
Yeah.
help prepare. I appreciate you letting me come on and talk about
Yeah,
it.
absolutely. It's important, and I think everyone should get your materials. So tell us again the website where they
Thank
can
you.
go and get everything.
Yeah, it's real easy. www. Pro-life-leaders, all one word, prolifeleaders.net. And I've told folks there's an email, info@prolifeleaders.net, comes right to me. I am willing to help mentor and help guide teachers and give them ideas on how to go through it and set it up with their churches. And so I'd love to help. This is very much a hands-on. And again, if you go to the website, prolifeleaders.net, all the materials there. You can read through PDFs, all 5 modules. You'll see the PowerPoints and the videos. I've put together a couple videos just to explain how it all works. So it's real easy.
Yep.
And I hope folks will look at it and, more importantly, use it. And more importantly, perhaps it can be a tool in the toolbox. Maybe they can use
Yeah.
just some of it, but do something else. I don't care. Again, I'm not getting anything out of this. The only cost is when they order the books. from a printer in Dallas, and he just prints them on demand. That's it. So I'm trying to take excuses away.
Yep.
Let's talk more about life, and let's prepare those students so they can go out and I believe be Christ's hands and feet when it comes to the unborn.
Yep. And I believe you have left my audience with no more excuses.
Well,
Good. All right. Well, thank you again, Stuart, for coming
thank
on and
you.
having this deep and difficult conversation. Friends, did you enjoy the episode? I'm so glad to hear it. Leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcast, Spotify, or my website, honestchristianconversations.com. Your reviews help boost the podcast in the ratings, so let's make these honest conversations more accessible to those who need them. Be sure to follow the show so you never miss another episode. And while you're doing that, why not share the podcast with someone? If you want a shout out on the podcast, or to join the community and mailing list, and to check out the Honest Christian Conversation store, the links for all these are in the show notes. Once again, thank you for spending time with me today. I look forward to our next conversation.